Welcome back to this session on the topic Abou Ben Adhem. In this session, we will be analyzing the poem from different angles. We have already seen a bit of introduction. We have seen line by line explanation of the poem, and in this presentation we shall see the climax of the poem, the form and structure of the poem, and the various literary devices used in this particular poem. And finally, we will critically appreciate the poem. Here we go. So, my dear friends, to everyone's surprise, the angel appears again in the next night with a new set of names of people who had been blessed by God. The word law adds to the climax of the poem. And these four last lines are leading up to the last mood or feeling of importance. So we can say the entire climax of the poem is lying in the four lines, and especially the word law. My dear friends, now we shall quickly go through the form and structure of this poem. The poem is parabolic in nature, which means it's a story with a moral, a story with a spiritual lesson, like the parable said by Jesus. Dear friends, I want to share with you one of the parables said by Jesus, the parable of the sower. The parable of the sower is about a sower going out to sow. As he was sowing the seeds in the field, some of those seeds fell on the roadside. Some fell on the rocky ground, some fell on the thorny bushes, and majority fell on the good soil. Those fell on the roadside were eaten up by birds. Those on the rocks quickly came up, but when sun came out, it dried up. So also those fell on the thorny bushes came up, but the bushes choked them. Only those seeds which fell on fertile soil gave good harvest, 100% harvest. And this is a parable. The parable is telling us we should be people who are fallen on the good soil. We get a lot of good lessons from our teachers, parents. If you accept it very happily, we are like the seed that has fallen on the good soil. Otherwise, that good messages, advices that we have received will be like those seeds fallen on the rock, maybe on the roadside, maybe on the thorny bushes. So this story, this parable is telling us that message. Whatever advices that we get from elders are to be accepted very, very gladly, and it is to be nurtured. Looking at the form and structure of the poem, we can see this poem is trying to tell us that God loves those who love human beings. The first 14 lines, we see Abou's encounter with the the angel. Abu is having the vision of the angel. And the last four lines are telling us angel is meeting Abu and sharing the surprise news to him. We see the use of alliteration here, similar sounding adjacent words. Deep dream, love, Lord. These are alliterations used in this particular poem. We know the climax of the poem, the last four lines and the last word and law, which is a surprise for Abu. We also see the use of classical words, classical language, rightest. So old form of right, thou means you, thee once again means you. These are the old classical language used in this particular poem. Now let us go to some of the critical remarks of this particular poem. The real Abou Ben Adhem. Who is this person? The poem may be based on the conversion story of an early Sufi saint, Ibrahim ibn Adhem or Ibrahim Balkhi. It is said that the prince renounced the throne and chose asceticism. He was humble and righteous. He emphasized the importance of silence and meditation for asceticism. Leighton's poem Abou Ben Adhem is a story of Ibrahim ibn Adhem. We can also see the moral of the poem is based on humanistic philosophy, concern for human beings. Taking this poem as a parable, we find the moral of the poem very close to the teaching of Jesus. So a lawyer came to Jesus and asked, which is the greatest commandment? And Jesus summarized the 10 commandments in two. Number 1, love your God with all your heart, mind and soul. Meaning to say, you love your God fully. The second commandment, the summary of the 10 commandments, the second one, he says, love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, as you are loving yourself, you show your love towards your neighbor who is closer to you. And this poem, Abou Ben Adhem, is based on this particular theme, love your neighbor as yourself. It is said we cannot claim loving God if we cannot love our neighbor. Our neighbors are the living gods before us. So this poem highlights the importance of loving our neighbor as ourselves. We can also see supernatural elements used in this particular poem. Supernatural element refers to something above reason which cannot be explained by science or laws of nature. The major topics that is discussed here are related to God, spirit, angels and supernatural beings. We can see such elements in this particular poem. Few examples are deep dream of peace, book of God, the presence in the room, the vision, great awakening light. These are the supernatural elements used in the poem. Another important aspect of this particular poem is the intelligent use of dialogue. Instead of reporting a message, we see the poet is using dialogues to give impact to the reader's mind. Dialogues in fact gives authenticity to the incident. It also gives beauty to the poem. The dialogue used in this particular poem are, "What writest thou?" is an example. Another example, "And is mine one?" Dear friends, in this particular poem we can also see the use of Old English language. It is to give a classical coloring, a classical flavor to this particular poem. Some of the words used, words like thou, writest, thee, are aimed to show the type of language angels will be accustomed with. This poem is trying to give a powerful message to the world through Abou's little experience of the vision of the angel. The poet makes him wake from his sleep. Another important message that this poem gives is about our own journey of life. We all are sojourners in this world. We are going back to God. It is by loving mankind we love God. And this aspect of loving God through service is highlighted in this particular poem. And third aspect of this poem, it visualizes a loving mankind. The poem teaches us that the highest form of worship is in the form of serving humanity. The poet is using so many imageries in this particular poem to highlight these messages. Let's see some of them. Number 1. A deep dream of peace. Abou is content and happy with himself. Only a happy child can have peaceful dream. Number 2. Exceeding peace had made Ben Adhem bold. This imagery tells us, or making us aware, that only in peaceful environment revelations such as meeting with the angels can happen. Third imagery, like a lily in a bloom. It suggests the beauty in the poem. That's all for today. Thank you. Stay safe and learn ardently.